Bitcoin is one of those really geeky, complex subjects, a bit like trying to explain to someone the internet before they started using emails and websites and web browsers and social networks. But the inventions behind Bitcoin are very, very significant. It invented three things. One was a system whereby all financial transactions are reported on a transparent ledger. So if you go to a bank, then it's all a private ledger. But Bitcoin is an open network, so anyone can actually download the history of every transaction. The second thing it invented was the largest network of computers in the world. So Bitcoin is powered not by one computer or one system like a bank might. It's powered by hundreds of thousands of computers all around the world who are all plugged together. And the combination of all those computers has actually created the largest supercomputer in the world. It's a very significantly sized computer. The third thing it invented was a kind of a system for how money is created in a transparent way, where you would know the monetary policy and the money supply at any moment in time. So with traditional central banks, they kind of adjust their policy of how money is created over time. With Bitcoin, it's all done by maths and code, and the people that profit from the process of creating Bitcoins are the people that are actually powering and using the network, as opposed to governments or banks. When Bitcoin originally came out, it didn't really have a price. So the original price of Bitcoin was, there's a famous blog on the Bitcoin forum, where a user managed to persuade a company to accept 10,000 Bitcoins for a pizza, which later was worth $3 million or something like that for a pizza. And so there was no price discovery. And then a company called Mt. Gox came along, and you may have heard of, and they created the first mechanism by where you can exchange Bitcoins for dollars. And what that did is it created price discovery. So traditional currencies are always priced against each other, and it allows you to have a market price for that. And so Mt. Gox created this exchange, which later became the largest exchange, which later went bust, whereby anyone could exchange their Bitcoins for dollars. It was a hugely valuable service at the time, but it turned out that they were implementing banking type systems, i.e. The people that were depositing their coins were giving the exchange all the details they need to steal their money. Now, Bitcoin doesn't require you to do that. You can exchange without giving people details to steal your money. This exchange required you to give those details, and so eventually they stole the money, allegedly. And the exchange went bust because of that, and whether they ran away with the money or not. And now there's been lots of different exchanges. Now, you can now exchange pretty much your Bitcoins for most currencies around the world, which allows you to go in and out of Bitcoin. For example, this is, for example, my debit card, and I've deposited some Bitcoins on this debit card, and they're exchanged for Hong Kong dollars, and I can spend this anywhere that accepts a card. And so that's why an exchange is needed. It's a hugely valuable service. However, many of the exchanges aren't utilizing the full potential of the transparent network. So you have to be very, very careful which exchanges you're using. You don't really want to share the details that one needs to steal your money with an exchange, and some of them require that, others don't. So the challenge with Bitcoin is you've got to understand a bit about how to secure them and the mechanisms behind it. But once you understand that, sending money can become as easy as sending an email for the first time ever. So in order for Bitcoin to be adopted, people need to stop asking the question, which is hard, of how does Bitcoin work? And I'll explain that. Most people don't know how their credit or debit card work. They don't know how their bank account works. They don't know anything, they just know how to use it. And over decades and decades, originally there was no trust in that system, and over decades and decades there's been trust built up, even though the systems turned out to be quite fragile. So if I try to explain to you the complexities of what happens when you make a payment, and the different institutions that it goes through and the different systems it goes through, you probably wouldn't understand it. Now everyone's trying to understand Bitcoin in terms of how it works, and when you ask that question, it opens up a whole geeky, complex problem that many people can't be bothered to try and understand. So for order for it to be adopted, entrepreneurs all around the world need to create useful applications of the technology that don't require people to ask, how does this actually work? And they just create value and utility. And so, now we've had about $1 billion of venture capital invested in the sector or into entrepreneurs all creating those applications, which make Bitcoin easy to use, and they really take care of some of the security things that people don't really want to take care of. I think the opportunity in Asia is particularly interesting because Asia has such a diversity of different people, and the markets that are most interesting in terms of remittances, of sending money from one country back to your family back home in another currency, is really, really a problem that Bitcoin can solve eventually. It doesn't quite solve it fully at the moment. There's too many layers in the mix, but it can solve it whereby you can transfer money anywhere in the world to anyone.